In this video, I wanted to show you this new tool I created, how to use it and what it's all about. So I'm calling it Magla, and it's a tool for historical investment research. It's to understand historical time periods. Say you're reading a book about maybe the 70s or 80s with like Peter Lynch or something, and you want to know what was going on, what the fads were, people were thinking. This tool will help you sort of understand those time periods and then normalize the S&P to values that you can understand today with some of these toggles I have on the left. So I'm just going to start off and show you, say you wanted to investigate 2001 as a similar crash to what we're experiencing today. So with the chart, it's all made to work on a desktop or a laptop. We need the bigger screen size to really do this stuff. But you just select, left click, select 2001 time period. The events on the bottom will auto update based on the dates you have filtered. And we're going to look for 2001 here. So this is the dot-com crash. Let me go back a little bit so you can see just how sharp the increase was for a while there. So it really grew quite a lot. 1990, it's sort of, 5 times growth to 2000. So quite the burst. And then it did dip pretty dramatically. So if we wanted to compare this time period to be like today, we would just need to set this current price range to be the max value, sort of make the same max values from that period equal to what we've got today and scale every other value appropriately. So if we thought today was like the dot-com crash, we would be somewhere in the dip to the right here. And I did this a little bit earlier, somewhere around the 12th of January. If we filter again, this would show you what it's like today. So let's see here, first day like today. Yeah, somewhere in here, I think I found maybe the 16th to be sort of a good marker. So all the values updated. Say today was like today. This is yesterday's close price. We would have, a slight increase and then the steady, not steady, but kind of lumpy down for a long time. If you expand to the right, you can see how things go back up and we get the '08 crash. And then it takes a while for things to really sort of rocket ship back it up. But when it does, it really does. And 20 years later, the value of the S&P tripled. And this doesn't include dividend reinvestment or any inflation adjustments. It's just the S&P price normalized. And yeah, so it's kind of interesting to sort of see, 20 years, quite a lot of growth. Is that going to happen? Are we going to have something bad happen along the way? And to better understand that, you can just use these event filters on the bottom. So in here, you can see 2001, January 1st, a black monolith was placed in Seattle's Magnuson Park. That's kind of odd. Something similar happened in Utah, I believe, 2 summers ago. So that was cool. But if you click on that link, it'll just search it for you, and generally the results are quite good on Google to learn more about this information. And the data does come from Wikipedia. It's sort of the big events in the US at the time. A big merger happened. I believe this was the time of Microsoft too, when Microsoft was a little bit in trouble for their anti-competitive practices at the time. Earthquakes are kind of interesting. They seem to happen a lot more in the past, but it could just be sampling bias by my part. I just want to show one other interesting thing with Magla. You can look at elections. So in 2001, there was an election. That was when George Bush got put into office. Just a second here as I get my filters right. Oh, I did the wrong year. So we're going to go towards November. And if you're curious, how does a stock market election change, how does a presidential election change the stock market? You could sort of use Magla to go back in time and see what was going on. So the Bush tax cuts, I believe, I'm off a year, sorry, it is 2000. Go back here, a bunch of clicking. Let's filter like this. There we go. In November. Yep, Hillary Clinton elected the first lady of the U.S. to win public office. That's kind of interesting. We can see the presidential election. So on 11/7, people saw that George Bush was likely to win, but there was all that controversy with the recount. So if we look at the stock price somewhere around 11/7, we'll see that it really took a nosedive when Bush won. And that was a little confusing to me. Why would that be the case? Because generally a Republican is a good thing for stock markets because they have good or more favorable tax treatment of businesses and things like that that sort of quickly show up in the stock market. Now, what I did find was the Senate at that time switched to be more Democratic. So if we look at U.S. Senate 2000 election, you can see I did this before. We can see that in 2000, 4 seats of the Republicans were lost and 4 were gained by the Democrats. So then it's really a split Senate. And I believe the House of the Representatives had a similar change, but not as dramatic as the Senate, the sort of more important chamber, in my opinion. So yeah, so that was kind of interesting, something I learned with Magla. And really, it's just a good tool, in my opinion, to look up past time periods, just get an idea. So, zoom anything, just start looking through, and maybe you'll find something interesting. Brutalize the suffragist inmates, that's crazy. So, Night of Terror, I've never heard of this in my life, but here we go. Silent Sentinels, something happened in 1917. Beating Lucy Burns, that's crazy. So it looks like a woman was beat for trying to vote or something. I'm not too sure. I won't say too much on this one without reading it, but yeah, it's kind of cool to use Magla to find out all the stuff that isn't really in the mainstream news. You can also look at this current year. If I put this to 2022. Apple, $3 trillion company. That's kind of a crazy headline. One thing I saw that I didn't hear too much, at least where I read my news, but the big fire going on in New Mexico, the Forest Service thinks they started it. So that's kind of crazy. Yeah, Twitter, Elon Musk manipulation, that'll be good to look back. It'll sort of show what was going on in this time period. So yeah, that's Magla. Please let me know your feedback, and I do have more things planned in the future, sort of in this vein of helping you use information a little bit of a different way to spark understanding when things aren't purely factual. So like there's no factual way to say this is what the 1950s were like, because everyone's going to have their own opinion. If you've actually lived in a time period, you'll find historians have a lot of leeway in how they sort of describe events that you may or may not disagree with. So it's sort of a tool to help you understand the fuzzy in the world, and I want to create more things in that vein. So thank you for watching. Please, if you like coding and things like this, like and subscribe to my YouTube. Obligatory, I have to say that. And yeah, thank you.